Hey y'all, welcome back. Time for a library trip. So I came today to pick up my fall reading list books. Some of them I own, some of them I'm getting from the library, and some I'm going to have to pick up because I had to ship them from another branch. So yeah, let's see what I get. I don't know about you, but I am so happy that we are in September because that means that we have finally gotten to the Burr months, September, October, November, December. Definitely my favorite time of the year. Let me know what your favorite time of the year is down below. What I'm about to show you, this TBR list, granted, is a lot of books. I know that it is, but it is going to last me through the majority of the Burr months. But I thought that we could start out with Libby. Currently listening to We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, one of my favorite low-key creepy writers. It's by low-key, I mean like her books are not all like gore and chilling factors, anything like that, like hardly ever like big ol' murders, but it does really, like, the books, like her writing really does creep into your head in that perfect way, like perfect for spooky season, and just kind of lives there. And We Have Always Lived in the Castle is about an isolated and deeply neurotic family who one of the members at one point in the family history was tried for murder. And so because of that, and because they're such a strange bunch and they live like in a big castle on the hill, the townspeople really don't like them. I always like to keep a book open on Libby for whenever I'm out and about and like have to wait for something, so that I always have something on my phone. And that book currently is a cozy mystery called Bound for Murder, and it's by Laura Childs, and this is set in New Orleans, and the main character owns a scrapbooking shop. And this main character and her friend are at a wedding. One of the people at the wedding is murdered, so together they have to solve this murder. And in keeping with that, I'm sorry, it is so tiny, Fudge Bites. Look how cute that cover is. So Fudge Bites is by Nancy Coco. It takes place in late October, which I thought was just going to be perfect. I'm going to read this around about in October. And it follows our main character, who follows her cat, who has like bloody paw prints, to the back of a fudge shop where they find, you guessed it, a body. So now the stack of like physical copy books. The Black Notebook by Patrick Modiano. It is a tiny book. It's a bit of a novella, but that is good. So part of the story takes place in Paris in 1960, and then part of the story takes place 50 years later. And he goes back 50 years later with his little black notebook that he's written everything down, or at least names from the 60s. And so he goes back to sort of retrace his steps, retrace what has happened, as the back of the book says, because I thought that this just sounded perfect. What happened when he became mixed up with a group of unsavory characters connected by a shadowy crime. Next on my TBR list is Madalina and the Dark by Julia Fine. And this book takes place in Venice, 1717. So definitely back in a time period that I'm not used to reading about, but I am looking forward to it. It follows the story of 15-year-old Luisa, who wants more than anything to be in the orchestra. And then Luisa meets Madalina. Every book, it just has this moment that makes me want to read it more. So it says that this is a Venetian fairy tale about the friendship between two girls and the boundless desires that will set them free if it doesn't consume them first. Wayward by Emilia Hart. We have to take a moment. Wayward seems to be a story that's going to follow through centuries. So one of the stories is 1619, about a woman who is waiting trial for murder of a local farmer. And then the next story is from 1942, during World War II, that a woman is trapped in an estate that her family has, and that estate is all crumbling because, it's World War II. And then the last story is in 2019, where the main character flees London for Wayward Cottage. So there's another cozy mystery on my list that I will be saving for October, and this is The 7-Year Witch. This, if I remember correctly when I bought this last week, is part of a series as well. So this follows a main character who is developing her witchcraft skills, the letters left by her grandmother. And while she's doing that, a murder, of course, takes place. So she So the main character and her cat Familiar have to solve the crime. This was my book of the month choice for last month, and I didn't read it. I was going to save it for October, but it might be late September, early October. Vampires of El Norte, and I will be linking that book of the month unboxing down below in the description box and up in the cards if you did want to check it out. This takes place in 1840s Mexico, and this follows two main characters who have to escape, something that goes bump in the night. I feel it's strange that I am who I am, and I have never read this book, nor have I seen the movie ever. I don't know how I escaped it. It's Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. So definitely on my list to watch as well after I finish the book. If you don't know what Practical Magic is about, it's about, it follows a family of witches who live in Massachusetts. Next up, we have a YA book by my favorite, I think I can say that because I've read pretty many of her stories. Madalina Rue, she writes YA thriller type books, horror type books. They're so good. They're so legitimately creepy, creepy. Let me say that again. They're creepy. I find that a lot of books that are written for adults that are in the horror genre, they're very bloody. But the YA horror books, they live with me forever, and hers are no exception. So this is the Book of Living Secrets. Two best friends who are consumed by a book called Moira? From Schitt's Creek? And the girls are tempted to enter the world of the novel. I put this one on my list simply because of the cover, because it looks very dark and autumn and I don't know. You'll see. This just looks very seasonal, right? This is The Sound of Wings. And this follows three women who are at very different points in their life, who are in many cases trying to escape things. And it says here, which this is what I really liked whenever, I think I received this in a subscription box a few years back, but I remember really liking this line. It's a tale of love, friendship, betrayal, and the risks we take in the pursuit of justice. Another book of the month choice, but this was from eons ago, 2 years ago, I think. Once There Were Wolves follows the story of a woman who's on a team who's trying to reintroduce some wolves back into the Highlands, and then a farmer winds up dead. And so people are blaming those wolves. The mystery of Sherlock Holmes. I love Sherlock Holmes stories. I loved the BBC Sherlock. I still love the BBC Sherlock. Anyway, I was going to say it. Fine, I'll say it. And no other Sherlock Holmes adaptation ever. But I haven't ever read the stories, the actual tales. So I thought that even though I know how the stories end, it'd be cool to go back and actually read them. Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and I have heard this talked about in countless Book Talk and BookTube. Is that what it's called? What is this community? I think it's called BookTube. Anyway, videos talking about how this is a really polarizing book. You either love it or hate it, and I hope that I love it. And it follows that the circus arrives without warning. That is the opening line of the synopsis. Follows the circus and the people, from what I gather from hearing what others have said, the people who work in the circus, the people who are the circuiteers. They have a name, don't they? Circus people. The circus people. The performers, the workers of the circus. I am very tired. It is very hot outside. Even though this is a fall video, it's still in the 100s. So my brain is a little wonky right now. So this video is just kind of going its own way. All right, next up is Black Candle Women, and this is by Diane Marie Brown. This follows a family that for generations, all of the books just fell. So this follows a family that for generations kind of kept to themselves, kept close to home, until one day, one of the teenagers in the family brings home a boy. And she's wondering, slash, they're kind of telling her, it appears from the synopsis at least, that she needs to end the relationship before it even starts because, and I quote, of the decades-old family curse that any person they fall in love with dies. Lady from Burma is next on my list. And by the way, I keep saying next on my list. These are in no particular order. I know some people do that, but I just can't. I get too excited about the books. The women go off to solve a mystery that looks like a suicide, but they, of course, think is a murder. In the woods, by the way. All right, so you stuck with me this long. I only have 3 books left. Promise, the video will end soon. This one kind of seems unlikely because it's not that seasonal. It's not like a murder mystery crime solving sort of thing. It is, in fact, a romance, but I've been wanting to read this book for so long, and it just... I don't know. I personally don't because I've been single for a gajillion years, but it sort of feels like the fall in like other people's worlds or like romancy time or like cutesy little, like they go to pumpkin patches together, right? Like that seems like the rational thing to do. So I picked up a romance for that to live vicariously. This is One Last Stop by Cassie. I never know how to pronounce their name, McQuinston. And so this is the same author who wrote Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I loved. Haven't watched the Prime adaptation of it yet, though, because I don't have Amazon Prime, so I don't know if I want to get it just to watch that or not. I had Amazon Prime, and then it was way too expensive to pay for just, like, watching movies. Because I wasn't using anything else. So I don't know if I want to like pay for a month, watch the movie, watch a few other things, like watch Fleabag, like all that might work. Because I haven't watched Fleabag and I love me some Andrew Scott. Yeah, that may work. And I know Fleabag ended forever ago, but that may be what I do. Anyway, sorry. Rant over. This follows August as she moves to New York City, and she's a very like that love stories don't exist, and then she meets Jane. Yes, that's the name. Then she meets Jane on a train through her commute, and I assume love just blossoms. 100 Years of Solitude is also on my list. This is a book that follows the rise and fall, birth and death of mystical town of Macondo. Through the history of the Buendia family. This is something that I've been wanting to read forever, and so I just thought I'd throw it in, if I'm going to be honest. I read this book when I was in college, Spanish as my foreign language in college, and wasn't a well put together Spanish faculty, if I guess that's the best way I can say it. Like Spanish 1 taught. So like Spanish 1 really only, like where you're supposed to be building your fundamentals, right? Was only worried about really teaching us culture. And it was a great class. We got to learn about all the different cultures. But when we got to Spanish 2 and 3, those of us who had that teacher didn't know much at all, because that teacher didn't teach us anything. And then, of course, because it was college, the other teacher was like, well, you learn it yourself. And we were like, eh. But anyway, so got through all of that. And then Spanish 4 was Spanish Lit. But I didn't have the fundamentals at all to be able to read these books. So we read a lot of good literature. I use read loosely because this was before, I know I'm going to sound like I'm ancient when I say this, but I took this class before Google Translate was a thing. Like, I'm sure it was a thing in like if its infancy, but I couldn't just like take a picture with my phone and then like it translated for me on the page. So I suffered my way through about like half of this book and then gave up. Yeah, just completely gave up. So I'm interested to see exactly what the book is about. And very last on my list, and I think I will save this. I was going to say I think I will save this for October. I don't know if I can wait that long. I did not know that this author had this book, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, this author has another book as well. This is the author who wrote The Last House on Needless Street, which I read last year. And it freaked me out. It freaked me out so much
And that author, by the way, is Catriona Ward, and this is Little Eve. It takes place on an isolated island off the coast of Scotland, and there's an investigation for murder. That is it. All of the books, I think, that I am planning to read during September, October, and November. I would love to know what you plan to read over the next few months in the comments down below. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your day with me. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you real soon.